Hello, everyone, and welcome to Making Life Art, a podcast all about learning how to fall deeply in love with your life. I'm so glad you're here. Today's episode is all about getting more curious about life and finding ways to make it more magical and learning how to create space for magic to happen in your life. That's what we're going to talk about today. And we're going to start off with the mindful moment, like always, which, if you don't know what that is, it is a couple moments for you to pause the podcast and take however long you need to just give yourself whatever it is that you need right now. That could be a couple deep breaths. That could be a glass of water. It could be a little dance party for yourself. Whatever it is that you need right now, just give yourself that. So this is your opportunity to pause the podcast and take your mindful moment. I hope that gave you enough time to pause the podcast and give yourself your mindful moment. So today, it's been a fairly decent day. It's been really cool to have the rain be going all day. Not all day, but there's been a lot of rain. And of course it stopped right when I started recording. I actually think it would have been so cool to have like rain in the background of my podcast, but that's okay. I just think it would have been like a nice little touch. But anyways, so today we're talking about how to make room for magic in your life. Like, how do we make life magical? And when I decided to do this topic, it's kind of funny because I decided to do this topic and kind of planned out what I was going to say earlier today. And then later today, I was cleaning my room and I put on Aquamarine. I don't know if you've ever seen Aquamarine, but it is like a top tier girlhood movie. I love Aquamarine. The girlies know Aquamarine is the movie. And I love it even more because I just feel so connected to the ocean. I love mermaids, so it's right up my alley. Anyway, I put it on. It always puts me in a good mood. So I had it on. And there's this part that I think is so beautiful. And yes, it's a cheesy movie, but that's what makes it so good. So Aquamarine, the mermaid, she's crying, right? And then her friend Haley is trying to console her. And Aqua is talking about how love is stupid and like, why do humans believe in it? Why even try? It just sucks, you know? And Haley goes, well, love is the closest thing we have to magic. And I think that is so true. And I was just thinking about that and thinking about how love really is the closest thing we have to magic. And the way that humans can be so caring and kind and loving towards one another is the closest thing we have to magic and the connections that we cultivate. And I don't know. So this podcast might take a different turn than what I was originally thinking. I just think our connections are what makes life so magical. And I mean, I have my own personality and my own individual beliefs and things, but I'm also made up of all the things that I've learned through the people that I've met, you know? And I think that's really cool. We're all who we've met in some way or another. We pick up things from different people we know, and we decide what we think we want to take on and take as a lesson from that person. So I think that the real truest way to make your life meaningful is to cultivate meaningful connection. And the way to make your life magical is to create and sustain healthy connections. And of course, that's easier said than done. And I definitely am a hopeless romantic. But there's something really beautiful about that. And there's something really beautiful about being human, you know? So, anyway, with that, let's get into it. Excuse me. I need a drink. I'm drinking apple juice out of a glass jar, and I feel really cool. There's something about glass jars. I'm trying not to edit anything out of this podcast because I'm recording with my camera too. So hopefully I don't have to cut anything out. But anyway, that's why you'll hear me probably pause more than usual. But yeah, let's talk about magic. And, you know, I think we each have a different perspective on what magic means, but that aquamarine quote is kind of the direction I'm going to take this, which I didn't originally think I was going to take it in that direction. But this is how to make your life magical. I think the biggest key to this is being heart open, which is so much easier said than done. Being heart open is one of the hardest things to do, I think. And if you don't know what that means, being heart open is essentially being soft and being very free flowing and not adhering to such black and white thinking. Being heart open is being open to everyone and everything and trying to overcome your own bias and just having love in your heart for everyone, regardless of their beliefs and choices, which is easier said than done, of course, you know. And being heart open can be very difficult because it's also important to have boundaries, you know. It's also important to not let people get away with bullying others, and it can be difficult to walk that line of being heart open and being understanding and kind while also making sure you are healthy and safe and protected and not putting yourself in situations that aren't good for you in the name of trying to be more heart open, you know. But being heart open, it's about giving yourself and others grace. And yeah, it can be very painful, you know. Anything vulnerable is painful. But the reason why I think being heart open is the key is because that's how you cultivate meaningful connection. And we're all connected. I truly believe that. I know it's cheesy as hell, but we truly are all connected. And the closer we can get to understanding that, the more magic we can allow to happen in our lives. So I think that, you know, being heart open, it's one thing to say that you're trying to open up your heart and be like open-minded and open-hearted. It's another thing to actually practice it. And I feel like something that's helped me recently is thinking about it from a curiosity perspective. So instead of, let's say that I'm in a situation that feels triggering for me, instead of going straight to anger and straight to getting upset, instead getting curious about it and thinking, okay, why is this happening right now? You know, what could be causing this person to be doing this right now? Let me ask them. Let me not make assumptions. What could be causing me to react this way right now? and just getting like really curious about that and getting curious with everything, um, instead of judging someone else for something that they're doing that you don't like, thinking, okay, let me get curious about the why behind this, maybe I'm assuming and I don't actually know the whole story. So kind of going to that place, which can be really hard when you've had your boundaries crossed. If you've ever like created boundaries and had people not respect those boundaries, then it can be very hard to trust again and like let down your walls and be heart open and let people in because you have been burned before, So it can be very difficult to find a way to like make sure you're being safe and you're taking care of yourself while also being open-hearted. And I think that there's different, times in our lives for different things. Like there may be a time in your life where you just kind of have to grow a thicker skin, and that's okay. Like we all need to survive, and we have different like coping mechanisms and different ways that we go through life, so it's all right to it's all right if it takes time to figure yourself out. And it's all right if you're not in a place where you can be heart open right now. Like maybe that's just not a possibility for you right now, and that's okay. And maybe this podcast is for a later time, But I think that it's worth listening to, even if you're not in a place to be heart open, and maybe you're not in a place to be forgiving or give others grace. Like maybe you've really been hurt. And that's okay. Like anger is not always a bad thing. Anger can be a great motivator. There's a reason we feel the emotions that we feel. Even stress has its purpose. And nothing truly is inherently bad or good. Life is layered. And as much as we try to label things as good or bad, there are varying degrees of everything. And life is a paradox, and it can be so hard to wrap your mind around that, but it is what it is, and it's easier to go through life once you comprehend the fact that things can be layered and two truths can contradict each other. But anyways, I feel like I tend to be very like controlling. Like or at least I like want to be controlling of my life. Like I really want to, manifest my reality and have like this goal and this dream. But I also tend to let like those controlling tendencies get in the way of spontaneity. And the most magic happens in my life when I leave room for spontaneity. Like the most magical, fun moments are the ones that happened because I didn't plan them. They just organically happened, Like I think in this day and age, try to manufacture so much. And to a certain point, like that makes sense, like I need some structure in my life. It's a good thing that I put things on the calendar, or else I would be overwhelmed. So I'm not saying that like don't plan anything ever and like completely let go of like all structure. I'm just saying that like make sure that like when you are building structure into your life, you're leaving room for fun and you're leaving room for like different moments. Like I remember one time when I was first dating Brayden, and there was this one night where we randomly like went outside and we just danced and kissed in the rain, and it was so beautiful and fun. And that was a spontaneous moment. It's not like we planned that. And there are really fun planned things too. This is actually something I was reading about in my book, The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. And he talks about how in making art, we tend to either plan it or have it be spontaneous. Like there's artists that plan every detail and really like structure out their art. And then there's artists that just wake up with this idea and then go for it and put it on a paper, and they've just got it like randomly, it just fully formed in their head and they just went for it. And it seems like there's like no in between. And you're going to have, moments in your life that are really beautiful and wonderful that you completely manufactured, like let's say you planned out this amazing date and it went really well and it went exactly the way you planned and it was a beautiful moment. That's wonderful. It doesn't have to be spontaneous to be magical. But let's say that it didn't go the way you planned and you had this expectation that it was going to be so spontaneous and magical, and then you held so tightly to that plan that the whole evening was ruined. Versus having the perspective of planning this wonderful date. Let's say that you have everything planned and you thought that it was going to go really well, and then everything kind of fell apart, but it ended up being a happy accident. Let's say you planned on going to this really nice restaurant and having dinner there, and then everything kind of fell apart and you ended up having a picnic instead. And then that ended up being even more romantic and even more fun. And that's a memory that you're always going to remember. That's just an example. And that's just to say that don't hold so tightly to your plan that you're not even seeing the magical moments that could be happening because you're holding so tightly to that plan. And that's something that a lesson for me, too. Like, I'm talking to myself. But I do think like control and aggressiveness are kind of like sisters, So once you start holding on to control, it can make you aggressive because you get very uncomfortable with not having control. And that's a very dangerous place to be in. So just something to think about. One thing I also wanted to kind of touch on with like making life magical is the things that like you're exposing yourself to. We've talked about this on the podcast several times, but I feel like it's worth mentioning again, doing like a content cleanup. One thing that I haven't really thought about lately is how you can like press uninterested on certain types of content, and then your social media platforms will show you less of that content. I have really been so depressed from TikTok lately because there's just been a lot of sad videos on there. And then I like get addicted to like watching them for some reason. And I like want to know what happened. And I want to like know more about that news story. And it's just like empathy burnout like crazy. And it's crazy that this is happening because I've literally been trying to stay away from the news and trying to like preserve my mental health because I've just like been really going through it lately. So I'm like, okay, I've got to like stay away from like certain, topics. But then I like will see something on TikTok and then I like am like, oh, what? That happened? I want to know more. And then I just like get down this rabbit hole. So one thing that I want to do right now, I'm taking a TikTok break and a Instagram break. I just like offloaded them both. I was like, I need like some space, Is my phone going off? I thought I heard buzzing. No, come to think of it, like, where is my phone? I don't know where it went. Oh, well, speaking of, taking a social media break. Oh, well, I don't have my phone and that's okay. But yeah, I definitely want to, when I get back on social media, do kind of a content clean out, like go through my followers and see like, who am I following that's like not really adding, to my lights. But the thing is that I feel like I did that recently and I feel like it's not really like the people I'm following that's getting annoying. It's mostly TikTok. Honestly, Instagram, I don't really feel like I have that big of a problem with, but I just like took them both off because I was like, I just need a break from all of it. But TikTok, like, it's not even like the people that I follow. It's just my For You page showing me like all kinds of crazy stuff. And I feel like I have actually followed some accounts that I like shouldn't because like they're not going to add to my light. And recently I've just been like so curious about like the things that have been going on lately. And it's like, okay, no, I just need to stay away from content that makes me sad. So anyway, yeah, just briefly wanted to address that. You don't want to be consistently triggered when you're on social media. You want to feel fulfilled and feel lighter when you're done with it, Like, I think that there's this belief that social media is like either good or bad. And it's like, it's just a tool. It depends on how you use it. So like, if you're using it in a way that is making you feel dimmer and you feel like your light is dimmer because of social media, then maybe, yeah, you need to like take a break and be away from it completely, but also there is a way to use it to make you feel uplifted. There are creators to follow that make you feel good about yourself. And it's just about like utilizing it in a way that's more helpful and feeds your light. And this leads me to giving the universe room to work. So if you want magic to happen in your life, magic meaning like, yes, obviously like the connections we talked about, like love is magic, and also manifestation magic. I truly think that like you can manifest your dream reality if you, well, if you, you know, have the right headspace and you are aligned. And I just think that you can manifest your dreams. So, on that note, manifestation magic, it can only work if you are letting go. It just all circles back to letting go and surrendering and not holding too tightly to anything. Because here's the thing, you could have a dream and think that that dream is what you want. It's just like an Aquamarine. Oh my God, this movie's deeper than I thought. In Aquamarine, basically, these two girls, Haley and Claire, they want to not have Haley move because Haley's moving away. They're best friends, and Haley's moving, and they don't want her to move. They meet Aqua, this mermaid, who says that she'll grant them a wish if they help her, and they're going to wish for Haley to not move. But by the end of the movie, Haley starts to realize that, like, moving away for her mom's job, like, this is something her mom has worked her entire life for. And this is something that her mom, like, is huge for her career. And she starts to realize that, like, maybe she shouldn't wish for that. You know, maybe she shouldn't wish that they're not moving. And then they start to, a series of events unfolds. If you haven't seen it, I'm just explaining for people who haven't seen it. A series of events unfolds, which leads them to giving away their wish. They want to give Aqua their wish instead because they love Aqua. And so their wish changes, their dream changes. They grow and they get perspective on it and realize that they don't want what they thought they wanted because it's not going to be for their highest good. It's not going to be for everyone's highest good. And eventually they do get a wish, but it's not the wish that they were going to originally plan on asking for. Anyway, they still get the wish anyways, but they just decide not to wish for Haley to move. But my point with bringing that up is we have different dreams and goals that we think we want, and you never know if that's actually going to be good for you. You know, like you could have a dream your whole life, and then when you actually fulfill it, it's not what you thought it was going to be. And that's what I mean by giving the universe room to work. Like, don't hold so tightly to your dreams that you're not even willing to accept another possibility that could be better than what your dream originally was. So let the universe work its magic, be open. And that's what I mean with like being curious and being open. Like, don't hold so tightly to it that you aren't going to be open to anything else, you know? So for me, for instance, like I've been really trying to not say never to anything and to not be like, oh, I'm never ever doing that, or I'm never gonna, you know, I just don't like those definitives, because my perspective could change at any time. And I think that that's something that's beautiful about being a human being, is we change and we grow and we learn and we evolve. And I don't want to hold myself back from evolving because I just have a big ego. You know what I mean? The other thing is it's important to remember too that in letting go, you sometimes have to let go of things that seem good. You know, sometimes you have to let go of things that are really positive. Like, for example, I am so glad I moved here. I'm so glad that I'm in Florida. I moved from Utah to Florida, and I love my life here. I really do. And leaving my friends was so hard, and it felt really horrible to leave my friends, even though this was the right thing. Leaving my siblings behind felt horrible, even though I knew it was the right thing. So letting go of even like the positive things, like I was letting go of being close to family. I was letting go of being close to friends. And just because it's a good thing doesn't mean it's something that isn't right to let go of. Did I say that right? I hope that makes sense. The other thing is making your life magical is also about taking risks. And, it was a risk for me to move to Florida, and I'm about to take another really big risk pretty soon here. And taking risks it's tough, and it's scary, but like that's also what it means to be human, is to take the big jump and take the big risks. And sometimes that's where the most magic happens, is in trusting the universe and trusting yourself. Trusting that it's going to be okay if you take that risk because you trust yourself and you can do it. The other thing that like I find somewhat comforting, and I don't know if this is going to be comforting or scary for some people, but I find it comforting, is I tend to think like I have no idea what this life is. Like this could be a simulation for all I know. I have no idea if we existed before this or if we're going to exist after this. However, we know that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So I am fairly positive that I existed before this life and that I am going to continue to exist in some form or other after this life. But I'm very, very open to, all possibilities. That being said, this is the only time I'm going to be in this body, living this life with this specific experience right now. And maybe there's another dimension where my life is almost exactly like this, but it's a little different. It's still a different life, I don't know. I mean, maybe that's not how it is, but either way, I have no idea if this is the only time I'm going to be able to experience all of this. So why not take the risk? Why not go for it? Because if this is the only time I'm going to be able to have this human experience, and maybe it's not, but if it is, I want to make the most of it, and I don't want to have regrets. I don't want to look back on my life and think like, man, what would have happened if I would have just done that thing I always wanted to do? That's never going to be me. I don't want to be that person, and that's not the character that I'm choosing for my life. Okay, and then I wanted to kind of like take it in a little bit of a more romantic direction and like more like aesthetic ways to make your life feel more magical. I mean, this is what the podcast is all about, right? Like making life art, romanticizing your life, like the inner work, the outer work, the aesthetics. In my human design, which is like a personality type quiz, that's a very, very oversimplified way of explaining it, but you can do your own research if you're interested. But in my human design, one of my like, I think it's like my greatest sense, or like one of my great senses, is my sense of outer vision. And so it's very important to me to have the aesthetics on point. Like I just love making my life feel magical in any way I can. So for example, let's say that you need to run to the store to get some bread. Like I live in Florida, so sometimes when I'm like, oh, like I need to run to the store to get some bread. One time, instead of going to the store, I literally went to Epcot, France, and got a baguette from the bakery. And I was like, this is the bread I'm getting. Like that's how extra I was. Like that is a main character move. That is iconic. That's what I'm going for. That's a way to make your life magical. Like that's a main character moment. Just like finding those main character moments. And yeah, it's sort of planned, but like, isn't that fun and funky? So I'm going to do like a few examples like this, like let's say that I need to do my homework and I could just like get it done really quick at the table. But for me, it's very helpful for me to find motivation if I make these things experiences. So I could take my laptop down to the courtyard, and I could hang out on one of the benches in the courtyard, and I could have like a bowl of fruit with me and some coffee and just hang out outside in the summer sun, spring sun. It's not summer yet. I'm thinking ahead. Anyway, I could hang out outside and really just vibe with doing homework out there. I could, let's say I have to clean. One way I could make that fun, I could do a face mask and light some incense while I'm cleaning. I could, also bring some spontaneity into my relationship, surprising your partner with like their favorite dessert when they get home, or, breakfast in bed. There's different ways to like make things fun. And I think it's important to remember that like while holidays are a good reason to do things for other people, like I want to be the type of person that does things for people all year round. And while it's difficult for me to like kind of be that person for everyone in my life, I just don't have the time. But like, especially for like my partner, like I don't want them to just feel special on like holidays, like I want Brayden to feel loved and important and special every day of the year. And so how can, we do that for each other and like our friends too and our family members? But like, I think most important, our partners. Another thing is like, let's say that you're running errands. Maybe you make a stop at the bookstore and get yourself a new book. Like that's a fun way to like romanticize running errands. You could have a regular movie night, or you could have a sushi movie night. Go get sushi and then like get stuff to make like pastries and like cook together. Like tonight I was thinking like I'm going to pick Brayden up from work and I want to get him his favorite soda just to be nice. And then I want to make some pasta when he gets home. We'll see how tired he is because he has worked a full day. Hey, don't do that, Hex. Hex. She's going to ruin my dress. What is she even playing with? Oh, that's not even a dress. It's like, she's going to ruin a piece of clothing. Anyway. What was I saying? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, just like making the little things fun and just making like life an experience. And one thing, this is a really good example that happened recently. Last night, the power went out and it like completely went out. Like the whole building was no power. And so Brayden and I lit some candles and we played card games in the candlelight. And it was so romantic and fun. And we could have just like, used our phone flashlights, and we could have just went to bed, and we could have just like, played on our phones and not like interacted with each other. But we didn't. We, wanted to connect. So utilizing those moments for connection and seeing where you can connect with other people. I think an important part of that too is like taking conversations deeper than surface level. And I mean, you also want to like gauge what like other people are comfortable with, but like having conversations that you come away from feeling better and feeling lighter, and having conversations that make you feel like a better person after you've interacted with someone else. And sometimes those take time, sometimes it takes time to build those relationships to a point where you feel like that, like where you feel like you can interact with people in that way. It just takes time sometimes, but yeah, meaningful connection means being vulnerable and getting deeper. I also love the idea of like making little dates in your life, like whether that be solo dates or dates with your partner. Like, let's say that like you have a big list of like to-do items that day and you're running errands, and then you see this cute little metaphysical shop that you randomly see on the street. And you could say, oh, I'll just like make a note of it and come back later. I'm too busy today. Or let's say you're like, you know what? I have 10 minutes right now. I have 10 minutes that I can spend looking at this really cool metaphysical shop. And let's say that you find the most beautiful crystal you've ever found in your life. And maybe that's an example that would only get me excited, but like, like relate it to your own life, like what you would get excited about. And stop when you see something cool. Like if you're driving somewhere and you have the time and you just like see something along the side of the road that catches your eye, stop and check it out. Like maybe that's the universe trying to make something magical happen. If it caught your eye, maybe it caught your eye for a reason. And like maybe that's a date for yourself, or maybe that's with your partner, you know? You never know what you're going to find when you actually stop and like make room for magic to happen. A little thing is like opening the windows when it rains. I love like embracing the vibe of like each day. So like if it's a rainier day, like, you know, opening the windows, putting on Disney movies, lighting some candles. And if it's like, you know, a sunnier day, like going to the pool, eating some popsicles, you know, like really embracing the vibe of each day and romanticizing all the seasons, all the areas of life, because I think that we tend to get very sad when we label things as bad. Like, for example, like I do better in the summer than the winter. But like the winter is not bad. There are so many exciting things for me about the winter. I love Christmas. I love, you know, gingerbread men, and like I love skiing. There are really cool things about winter that I enjoy. However, it's like not as good for me as summer is, because, you know, the big sad seasonal depression. Ew. So I feel like one big thing for me, it was like I don't want to see winter as bad and summer as good. Like there is good in every season, and I look forward to every season. Honestly, I literally make a vision board for every season: spring, autumn, and winter and summer. Like I have a board on Pinterest for each season, and I get excited about each season. I make a vision board for every month, and I kind of like theme it through that for that month and that season, and that helps me really lean into the season that I'm at, and not always want what I don't have. Not always think like, ugh, I wish it was summer. Like I'm like, oh wow, like I love summer and I'm going to be so excited when it comes around again. But I'm really enjoying like this season of just like being cozy in the winter, you know? So there is good in everything if you're willing to see it. And another thing is like, for example, let's say I want to go get a coffee. Instead of going to Starbucks, I could go to a local coffee shop, you know. Instead of going to Barnes and Noble for a bookstore, I could find an obscure local bookstore. I know these things aren't always convenient, and I know it doesn't always work out the way that we want it to, and it can be very difficult to live in a capitalist society and try to support local businesses and find, you know, ways to support, you know, like for example, like I wish I could go to the farmer's market every time I needed groceries. And just don't be so hard on yourself. Do your best and do what you can. And, you know, maybe there's a day that you have time, you know, to go to the local coffee shop instead of the Starbucks. And maybe there's a day that you do have time to go to the farmer's market. And these experiences are so much more fun anyways. Like it's so much more exciting to go find a coffee shop that has some really cool flavors that you haven't tried, and they, you know, have a cool theme, and maybe there's a bookstore that has a book that you've never even heard of that changes your life. So it's just like really, it makes room for really cool stuff to happen when you find the magic. One important factor I feel like I'm really leaning into for spring with making magic in my life is wellness and minimalism. I feel like recently, also another reason why I've taken off TikTok is because I've just been like seeing a lot of like TikTok shop things, and I'm like, oh, I need that. Oh, I need that. Oh, I need that. And oh, I need that Amazon thing. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need that. And it's hard for me to gauge like, what do I actually need? What is actually going to benefit my life? And it can be hard too, especially with beauty, to think like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm a girl. Most of the people who listen to this are girls probably. So like, you know, looking in the mirror and thinking, I see wrinkles. Oh my God, I need to get like a better skincare routine. I need to do this. I need to do that. And sometimes I just take a step back and I think, okay, my ancestors didn't have retinol cream. You know, I think they did okay. And as much as like I love, you know, certain products, and like retinol is great for your skin, you know, all that, it's going to be okay if you're not doing every single wellness trend, every single beauty thing, if you're not completely holistic or completely not. Like it doesn't, like, I mean, it does matter in like if you, what you prefer and what the way you want to live your life. But like in the grand scheme of things, you're going to be okay if you're using a different face wash than the newest celebrity. You know what I mean? So I've been like really trying to like think like, okay, like where am I like really getting caught up, with that type of thing? Like one thing that I feel like has helped me recently is I've stopped like shopping for clothes online and I've started thrifting a lot more. And I've tried to like really find the clothing I'm looking for while I'm thrifting. And like that doesn't always work out. Like, sometimes there's something specific that you're looking for and you can't find it thrifting. But one thing I'll tell you, I've been wanting some white platform Converse for years. And I don't know why I never like bit the bullet on them. I think it was mostly just expensive. I thrifted a pair. Now, I will say they're not actually Converse. They're not the name brand of Converse, but I wasn't really, I didn't really care too much about that. But I just found some for $30. And I was like, sweet. Actually, I think they were less. I think they were 15. Yeah, $15, not 30. Why did I think they were 30? I think I got them for 15. And I randomly found them thrifting. Like I've randomly found quite a few things on my vision board thrifting. Very specific things that I didn't think I would find. I have randomly come across thrifting. So I'm just saying it can be very beneficial to, give your thoughts to the universe and say, hey, I'm putting out these feelers. This is what I want. This is what I want to receive. But I'm also open to all the possibilities. And I want you, universe, to take it into your hands and give me what's going to be for my highest good. This is the dream I have. But I'm willing to let it all go and give it to you and put it in your hands and you figure it out, And let's say you don't believe in the universe. Maybe it's your intuition that you believe in, It doesn't have to be a spiritual thing. It doesn't have to be a religious thing. It doesn't have to be anything. It just has to be you following what you believe is going to be for your highest good and being open and letting magic happen and giving your life room for magic. Now, on the wellness thing, I really do want to get to closer to like the earth in a lot of ways. And I would love to start, only using things that are holistic. However, I just don't think that's realistic for my lifestyle and for my life. But I try to maintain a balance of that. And I'm trying to switch different things out as I can. So trying to like kind of like follow like wellness more so and find different ways to connect more with like the earth and finding, different things to use instead of products, different, I don't know, like instead of taking a medicine, finding a holistic approach to something. I just would like to steer my life more in that direction and feel more connected with the earth because I feel like we tend to overcomplicate things as humans and think we need more than we actually do. And I want to step back and get more into like, I just want to get my feet in the dirt. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but like I'm speaking in a metaphor, I guess. I want to metaphorically get my feet in the dirt. Like I want to really go back to like the basics and the minimum. And I enjoy fashion. I enjoy my serums. I enjoy, talkies. And I'm not going to like completely let that all go. But I am going to maintain balance and find ways to connect me more with the earth and find ways to kind of get me back to the basics and think, okay, do I need this? No. Where can I make life not only less expensive, but just simpler? So yeah, that's just something to think about. And I feel like anytime I am on this podcast, please remember that like, I never want you to take anything I say as like black or white. Like it is completely up to your interpretation. And I want you to be open and curious about life. And that is how to create magic in your life, is by being open and curious. And I find that way more magic happens when I am open and curious, and when I'm open and curious to the connections in my life, when I'm open and curious to other people's perspectives, and when I'm able to like let go of my ego enough to like see where they're coming from, magic happens. And I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it at all. I really hold tight to my ego a lot of the time, and I'm working on it. We're all working on it, right? We're not perfect. The important thing is that we're trying. So try to be open, try to be curious. I guess in the words of Yoda, don't try, do. And I do, understand that that's the perspective a lot of people have, is like, just do it. Don't try, do it. But I really like the word try, because I think it gives us room to be human. And I think it is just another way to say that, like, you're doing your best. And I would never not do my best in anything that I do. So when I'm trying my best. And I think that that's really what counts, is the intention behind things. I think that, yes, it matters what you do and the actions you take, but the actions are meaningless without the intention behind them. If you do something good for someone else just because you're expecting them to return the favor, then it doesn't matter the good deed that you did. And that's why I think intention really matters, and intention is so important. And so that's why I'm saying, trying is sometimes all you can do. And so, yeah, I guess I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and that you got something out of it. I would love it if you would leave me a review and a rating on the podcast, because it really helps me out and makes me feel like I'm not doing this for nothing. Because really, it feels so weird to just be like talking into the void, like not knowing who's actually going to listen, who's actually going to benefit from it. So let me know if you liked it, and share it with a friend if you think someone else would like it too. And yeah, I post every other Sunday, so stay tuned for my next episode, and I'll see you then. Bye.